let's talk about your kill then. Can you talk
Okay.
us through it?
Yeah, I'll give you the brief version of it. But it really started. It's one of those, hey, this might not have happened if something else didn't happen kind of stories, because what had really gone on is earlier in that day, we were on another big mission to Baghdad, and JB, our four ship was the mission commander four ship, and JB it was his turn to be the mission commander, so he was on that. Great, had a great plan, had all the airplanes there. Everybody's checked in, everybody's got gas, we're ready to go on time, and they say stand by, and we stay standing by, standing by, standing by, and then they go missions canceled. And I think they might have told us weather in the target area or something, but these were daytime F-16s dropping dumb bombs, Mark 82s. Like they're basically modern B-17s. They need to see the target, to hit it. So they canceled the mission. But there was something else going on that we found out about later. Is that morning they'd shot the first Scuds at Israel from Iraq, and so I think that set off a lot of alarm bells. And I don't know if that's why they canceled the mission, or if it really was the weather, or some of the both. But it was over. So JB unfortunately didn't get to lead his mission, and um, we left. There was another part of that. So we thought something else was going to happen, but I'll leave that for the book. We got back to the base and was like, oh man, we get some extra sleep, because we our mission ended early. So like, let's go get some food, and let's get a pancake and get some sleep. So but I think we were just getting ready to leave the operations intel room, and somebody goes, Cluso, you got a call from Riyadh. And I pick it up, and it's an old friend of mine from Kadena. It's Rich McSpadden, and he was working in the planning cell. And he goes, Cluso, can you give us a four ship to go airborne? And we want you to cap for some. We're going to put some guys looking for Scuds out in western Iraq, kind of keep the Israelis out of the war. So we'll go hunt Scuds for them. And it's like, I don't. Everybody's tasked already. I mean, we were maxed out on tasking, and then I kind of look around. It's like, I guess my four ship could do it. I didn't know if the maintenance could turn the jets around and get them refueled in time, but I talked to the maintenance guys. They go, yeah, they'll be ready in an hour. I told him, Spad, we can be up there in about an hour and a half. He goes, okay, you got it. And literally, we just got something to eat, and as they say, you kick the tires and light the fires. And we were airborne, and our plan was just to sit over in the H2, H3 area of Iraq, wait for the strikers to come up, and we are just going to orbit for them to protect them, basically a defensive cap, make sure they didn't get jumped by any Iraqi fighters. And so I expected to be a pretty mundane and uneventful mission. And then a true Navy Alpha strike was going by us, going north. I think they were going to hit Al Assad, or yeah. And AWACS told us, and they were coming right through the area we were in. So we just got out of their way, because we didn't want them shooting at us by accident. And I said, hey, let us know when they're on the way out. And they did. And they say, yeah, Navy package is coming out. And then they go, hey, we got bandits airborne. They're chasing the Navy guys. And I had a mission to do. I go, okay, just let us know if you need us to commit. And like right away, they come back. They go, yep, commit north. They gave us the direction, and so we basically light our burners, and we just start smoking almost due east, to kind of cut off the Iraqi fighters that were trying to chase down the tail end of the Navy package. And Disco told me a great story. Disco Doug Dildy. He said he'd talked to the couple of the Navy guys on the package, and they said they were never so happy to hear Air Force Eagles on the way. So, because they had nobody protecting the tail end of the package, and then literally they were getting like threat 10 miles, threat 8 miles, threat 5 miles, threat 6 miles, and the guys go, whoa! They just thought they were going to get picked off, and we locked up a couple guys, a couple Iraqi fighters, and sure enough, as soon as we locked them off, they broke off and turned northeast towards Baghdad. And it's like, okay, we did our job. And as soon as they did that, they go, more bandits airborne, and they were north for about 40 or 50 miles. And so we basically checked towards north, and we had to watch the other guys that had just broke off the attack because they were close enough. If they turned back towards us, they were going to be a threat. So we're kind of keeping one eye out to the northeast with our radar. I told Cherry to watch those guys. He was on the east side of the formation, 1 and 2 on the east. JB and Willie. I was the leader now. JB and Willie, 3 and 4 on the west side, heading north. And sure enough, we lock up a couple targets north of us, and they're down low and they're going really fast. But when we lock them up, they do the same thing. They kind of turn away. And we just thought, we've seen this before. You know, it happened on night 1. Everybody's going to go home. They don't want to fight today. But sure enough, they didn't turn away for very long, the second group, and they turned back south, and then they just kept coming. And they were going, like I said, really fast and down low, which was a little bit unusual. But the geometry of what I was seeing with the 2 fighters kind of going out to the northeast and 2 guys coming at us was very classic Iraqi tactics, a decoy tactic. So their expectation, like they had done with the Iranians that we've been briefed on, is that we would follow the first 2 fighters towards Baghdad, and then the next 2 fighters would come around our left side and outflank us and basically get us from the stern. And that's what they would used to do to Iranians. But we'd been trained against those kind of tactics by our aggressors and our own training. Excuse me. And we recognize it. So I just basically checked the flight north into the other 2 guys, and me and JB lock up those targets. They're in a lead trail, about a 3 to 5 mile lead trail, coming straight at us. And literally, just as we're about ready to, and my idea was, let's take our aim 7 shots, take these guys out beyond visual range, BVR, before the other guys come back, and let's get out of this fight, go home. And literally, just as we're both getting ready to shoot, the Iraqi, which I did find out, they were called out as MiG-29s, and then we would soon find out, no, they're Foxbats. Right about the time we're going to shoot, they go into this beam maneuver. They turn 90 degrees to us, which could either be a maneuver or it could be a defensive reaction, because it's kind of a classic way to defeat a radar is to put yourself in the ground clutter of a look down pulse Doppler radar, which if you do it right can be effective, and it's well known. It's not, but we were surprised that either these guys were really lucky and they just happened to turn at the right time, or they really knew what they were doing. And we found out later they really knew what they were doing. And what happened there is both our radars, mine and JB's radars, broke lock. And it's like, ooh, but we knew what to do. You just be patient. And then I told Cherry to come down and look low with me. And when they came out of that beam maneuver, we found them at a short range on our nose. We both locked up. I locked up the leader. He locked up the trailer. But we were just too close, too tight, and we were still really at higher altitude, and we couldn't get a shot in the face. And so we got to emerge. The leader was smoking fast. I looked down and I go, ooh, there he is. And he was just so fast going by me. I go, I'm never going to catch that guy. So I just let him go, because the next thing I heard is Cherry's engaged. He calls engaged because the second guy is in a turn right underneath us. I think he knew we were there, but he didn't know where we were because we were so high. So I assume his controller probably told him, you're merged. And he just started turning, probably looking for us. And he probably never saw us until Cherry started shooting. And so what happened is Cherry does this high over G's the jet, split S, and I just kind of flow to the other side, his right side, and I do more of a slicing turn. And he's the engaged fighter. I'm the supporting fighter now. And he's camped behind this Foxbat. And Cherry's just, I tell Cherry, he's like, dude, you look like a Roman candle, because he's just firing missiles from Fox 7, Fox 2 or Fox 1, Fox 2, Fox. And the Foxbat is just putting out chaff, flares. And it's like, I don't think Cherry's ever going to kill this guy. And so I call him off, but he doesn't hear it because he claims. But no, he actually is calling one of his shots. I reviewed the tape. It's right at the same time I say that, he's keying his mic and calling what would be his last shot. So he's shooting one more aim 7. I'm shooting an aim 9. His aim 7 gets there. Somewhere in there, he sees his guy eject. I never saw that from the distance and the angle I was at, but he saw it because he said that he almost hit the guy coming over his canopy. But uh, we fly. Cherry comes off left, I believe, and I fly right past the Foxbat. And I was thinking he was still fighting, still alive, but I was going to just use my gun. But his burner cans were dark now. His engines were off, whether he'd shut them off or Cherry's missile had taken out his engines or something. We didn't see any big explosion or smoke or anything, so it looked like he was still flying. But so I knew he was done, and his airplane was just sinking into the undercast at about 2,000 feet, and like a ship sinking. And so I come around the corner, and my auto lock mode snags the other Foxbat who'd gone out maybe 8-10 miles and finally got his airplane turned around. He was going so fast. And he's like right on my nose. My radar locks him up automatically. Cherry tells me about him. Hey, Lead, you got one on your nose. I go, yep, I can see him. And I basically roll in right behind him. And I think I over G my jet too. So I always tell guys, the Foxbat, he's down low, he's going fast. He can probably only do about 2 or 3 Gs in a turn. And me and Cherry are performing at 9+ Gs in our turns. And it's like, if the guy saw us, he must have just gone, oh my God, how do you get his jet turned around so fast? And I end up right at his 6 o'clock, just like Cherry was on his guy. But I couldn't tell what he was. Even at that range, I was within a mile, less than a mile and a half, almost a mile, because I could tell what kind of plane he looked like, kind of, but it was a twin tail airplane, and so is an Eagle. So is a Tomcat, which there was just a Navy package there recently, and I didn't know where JB and Willie, my number 3 and 4, went at that time. So I just really didn't know what he was for sure. And so if you ever hear the comm, which I think they played on CNN from Riyadh like a couple days later, it's like, Cluso, your comm, your HUD tapes on the CNN. It's like, wow. They had to edit a lot of it out for security reasons. But that's where I kind of go through this iteration of asking guys if anybody's in burner, because this airplane's got 2 huge burner plumes coming out the back. And that probably wasn't going to be enough for me to be sure, but I could start using visual identification clues, like how many missile pylons he had on his wing and things like that. And I go, that's not an Eagle and that's not a Tomcat. That's the Foxbat that I saw at the initial merge. And that's when I started shooting. And so,
yeah, because you had said everybody out of burner now.
Yeah. Just like, I wanted to see if this guy's burners went out. But looking back, it's like, well, I can't make sure that everybody got my call. So it ended up being a visual identification. So I was trying to use comm to verify just to be sure. But by the time I went through that whole iteration, I'd confirmed in my mind this was a Foxbat that was in front of me. But it surprised me it was so hard to do even at that close range. So I started shooting, had a few problems with a couple missiles. And once again, we'd seen good defensive responses out of the Foxbats, which were giving our missiles a hard time with chaff and flares. So it was really my second aim set. My first aim 7 shot, the missile motor never fired, which turned out to be kind of a common problem during Desert Storm. But the second one did. And at that close range, it got to him pretty quickly. And there was some temporal distortion there. I just thought, why didn't he blow up? But the missile got there, and I think it might have been a contact fuse actually. But it seemed like forever from the time my missile arrived. But when he blew up, it wasn't like Cherry's airplane. I mean, his jet literally disintegrated, and that was, you can hear me yelling, screaming, splash on the radio. And then the next thing comes out of my mouth is, where are you guys? Because I was all alone. So I was like, you don't want to be all alone in combat. Because I told Cherry leave, while I finish this guy off. But he did. And he was about 9-10 miles away from me when I got turned back around. So that's another part of the story. But that's basically the way it happened.
What this was a question we've sort of covered it, but I'll ask it explicitly anyway. What were your immediate feelings then, other than feeling all alone? What were your immediate feelings having
Uh,
shot this guy down?
uh, like in the air in the cockpit, it was the way it blew up was like, oh wow, that was like I just didn't expect that based on what I'd already seen from the previous uh, targets we'd shot down. It was I would say I can't say it was elation because I was still in a combat zone, but it was like, all right, great. That's the result I wanted. Let's get the hell out of here. And so everything that happened after that was trying to get us home safely, and there was a lot to that part of the story too. Um, and then probably the celebration elation part really ended up being when we got on the ground. First of all, we did our victory rolls over the airfield, which were kind of illegal, but we got away with them anyway. Uh, not, not, we had not tacit approval from the wing commander, from Colonel Parsons, but when Sly and Hoser did it on their first mission, he didn't ground them, so they survived. It's like, okay, we can do it too. So, but me and Cherry, we parked in the same area, and we got on the ground, and we were just hugging each other and talking about what had happened and things like that. So it was it was kind of like that Top Gun Tom Cruise at the end of the movie on the carrier, but it was more real.
Let's go.
uh, Nothing wrong with that, but it wasn't Hollywood. Let me put it that way.
You mentioned the motor no fire. That seemed to have been a recurring theme. Did it dent your confidence in the AIM-7?
We didn't have much problem with it. That was one of the few cases I think that we had a problem. I think it was Bitburg had a big problem with it, and it was after the war they finally figured out why. And it was because the cart, which is the cartridge, the explosive cartridge that when you hit the pickle button, the fire button, and it gets the signal to fire, it basically and they at that time we just carried them on the fuselage station. So that cartridge would fire, and that explosive impulse would push the feet of the ejector system for the AIM-7. So it literally unlocked and pushed the airplane or the missile away from the airplane. That had to occur over a very specific time, we're talking microseconds or, less than a second or something. But because they didn't want the motor to fire while the missile was still attached to the airplane. And so it had to push the missile away at a certain speed or rate that it would know that the missile's away from the airplane. And then they had an umbilical that once the umbilical broke, it knows, okay, the missile's separate from the airplane motor, you can fire. So it was basically a motor safety mechanism. Well, they had some carts apparently that were bad, the lot, whoever the manufacturer was. And when and nobody knew this, but we'd fly so many hours at high altitude that these things would get cold soaked. And so when they got cold soaked, they would fire usually, but they fired at a slower rate than they were supposed to. So the missile would release from the jet, it would get pushed away, but at the time the motor was supposed to fire, it did not break the safety umbilical yet. And so the jet thinks, oh, your missile's still on your airplane, and so the motor's not going to fire. And that's what we found out was the cause. And apparently Bitburg had most of those bad carts, and so they had a big problem with that.
If you enjoyed this clip and want more, you can go to 10percenttrue.com, hit subscribe, you get early ad-free access to all my content. Appreciate your support.